Our star cornerback's social media nightmare has Chi-Town divided, while our offensive coordinator struggles to recreate Detroit's magic without success, and a victory that saves us from total disaster. These three stories are going to shake everything you thought you knew about this season. If you thought you'd seen it all, you're completely wrong. Subscribe because what's coming will change your perspective on the Bears forever. A victory that feels like little, but keeps us alive in this season from hell. 25-24 against the Raiders in Las Vegas. And I'll tell you this is the kind of win that can define an entire season or be the beginning of the end. For Matt Eberflus and this whole organization, after years of watching this team collapse at critical moments, from the Matt Nagy era to Mitchell Trubisky's disappointments, we finally have something resembling a winning identity. But listen carefully to what I'm going to say. This victory exposed more problems than it solved, and that has me worried about Chicago's immediate future. Did you see how Max Crosby absolutely destroyed our offensive line all night? I think this guy is an absolute monster. And I'll give you the exact numbers to understand the magnitude of the disaster. For tackles: 3 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 1 official quarterback hit. Lord knows how many unrecorded pressures and 3 passes deflected. Do you know what this means? That our franchise quarterback Caleb Williams looked like a scared rookie back there. And here's what bothers me most about this situation. Those deflected passes at the line of scrimmage are already becoming Williams' trademark, and not in the way we want. I ask you, how is it possible that the number 1 draft quarterback has so many problems with something as basic as the release point? All season we've seen this same problem, but against the Raiders, it was amplified in a way that genuinely worries me. Chicago's offensive line showed alarming inconsistencies that will cost us dearly if we don't fix them immediately. Theo Benedette struggled all night at right tackle, looking lost in space every time Crosby attacked him from that side. They had to move him to left tackle when Ozzie Trapilo came in for Braxton Jones, and that's where it stabilized a bit. But I ask you this, what kind of depth do we have when our backup tackle can't handle basic pressure? Drew Dalman and Jonah Jackson, our supposedly reliable veterans on the interior line, were also overwhelmed on multiple occasions. These are guys Ryan Poles paid good money to stabilize Williams' protection, and I think so far they're not justifying a penny of their salary. Remember when we thought we finally had a competent defensive line? I'll tell you this, we still have a lot of work to do. But here's the part that really frustrates me. Our veterans paid with million-dollar contracts aren't producing when we need them most. Cole Kmet, who is supposedly our franchise tight end, had multiple critical drops and committed a devastating false start on 4th, and one that forced us to punt in a situation where we needed points. Is this veteran leadership? Dander Swift, the running back we brought from Detroit to balance this offense, ran like he had lead feet all night. He was unable to find the most basic holes up the middle, something he used to do with his eyes closed when he played for the Lions. He even had an embarrassing drop on a swing pass early in the game. That could have been a significant gain. His touchdown at the end saved the stats. But I think it was a generally disappointing performance for a player of his caliber. And DJ Moore, our number 1 receiver earning over $20 million per season, ended with just 4 receptions for 38 yards. 4 receptions against the Raiders secondary that's not exactly legendary. I ask you, is this what we expect from our most expensive receiver? But do you know how the hell we won this game despite all these offensive problems? The answer lies in Chicago's historical DNA. Our defense saved us from total humiliation, keeping the tradition of the monsters of the Midway alive. Kevin Byard had a spectacular performance with 2 interceptions, coming down like a guided missile to force those crucial turnovers in the first half. This veteran is showing us why Ryan Poles signed him: experience in big moments, and the mentality to make plays when the team needs them most. Tyreek Stevenson contributed with his own interception, giving our anemic offense favorable field position to work with. And Drew Billings generated a fumble that could have been the turning point of the game. This defense forced turnovers at a rate we hadn't seen since the best days of Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith. But I ask you something fundamental. Can this defense sustain this level of production all season while our offense finds its identity? Because if Caleb Williams doesn't improve those mechanical issues, and our offensive line doesn't stabilize, we're going to rely entirely on turnovers to win games. And that's not a sustainable strategy in the modern NFL. Now let's get to the drama that has the whole city talking. Kyler Gordon and his social media theater that left fans more confused than Matt Nagy designing plays on 3rd and long. I'll tell you this. Gordon disrespected the most loyal fan base in the entire NFL on Friday. He tells us he's counting on playing for the first time this season after hamstring issues. Practices in a limited way. He's listed as questionable on the injury report. And the guy is posting on social media like he's going to play. And what happens on Sunday? He appears on the inactive list before the game. Do you think this is professional? I think Gordon doesn't understand what it means to wear navy and orange in this city. Chicago fans don't deserve this kind of mind games. Meanwhile, Nick McCloud is out there covering the slot. With a passer rating allowed of 146.9. He's given up a touchdown and 87.5% completions when targeted. Is this the best we have while Gordon plays hide and seek on Instagram? And here's what bothers me most. Our secondary was supposed to be our greatest strength going into training camp. But between Gordon and Jalen Johnson with his injured groin, we've never had the whole group together. This is costing us winning opportunities. Do you know who we're playing against? Against Brock Bowers running routes from the slot, and we're with McCloud who has terrible numbers. Dennis Allen doesn't even want to use Josh Blackwell, who has been Gordon's backup the last 2 seasons. Does this make sense to you? And if you thought that was all, you're completely crazy. Because now comes the news that perfectly sums up everything wrong with Ben Johnson's offensive coordination and his desperate attempt to recreate the magic he supposedly had in Detroit, the famous Stumblebum play that made history with the Lions last year when Johnson was their offensive coordinator. Do you remember that beauty? Jared Goff pretending to stumble and fumble, Jahmyr Gibbs selling the act perfectly, and in the end, a spectacular touchdown that had the whole country talking about Detroit's offensive creativity. It was pure genius at the time. A play that showed why Johnson was considered one of the most innovative coordinators in the league. But what happened when Johnson tried to call the exact same play with the Chicago Bears against the Raiders in the second quarter? An absolute disaster that fooled no one and ended in a pathetic incomplete pass. That perfectly summed up our offensive problems. Caleb Williams took the snap and pretended to stumble, but the performance was so unconvincing it looked like a high school play. D'Andre Swift tried to sell the fake fumble, but his acting was worse than a B-movie from the 80s. The coordination between quarterback and running back was so bad that even the fans in the stands knew it was fake from the first second. I ask you this, and I want an honest answer. Why did Johnson think he could use exactly the same play that everyone had already studied on film? The Raiders obviously prepared specifically for this possibility. They knew perfectly well that Johnson had used it successfully in Detroit. It's as if Johnson assumed the play would work by magic, without considering that he no longer had the element of surprise. And here's what really bothers me about this situation. Johnson has so far completely failed to recreate the offensive magic he supposedly found with the Lions. Could it be that the success he had in Detroit was more a product of that roster's exceptional talent than his genius as a coordinator? I think we're seeing the answer to that question in real time, and I don't like what we're discovering. Let me be clear about something. When Johnson was in Detroit, he had Jared Goff at his best, Jahmyr Gibbs as a rookie phenomenon, Amon-Ra St. Brown as an elite receiver, and an offensive line that had been playing together for years. That chemistry isn't created overnight, and it definitely isn't recreated by simply copying the same plays. But do you know what the biggest problem with all this is? Johnson seems more interested in proving that he deserved the credit for Detroit's success than in adapting his system to the players we have here in Chicago. This Stumblebum play is the perfect example. Instead of creating something new that maximizes Caleb Williams' unique skills, he's trying to force our players to execute something that worked with completely different players. Caleb Williams is not Jared Goff. Williams has superior arm talent and mobility that Goff will never have. But he's also in his rookie season dealing with the transition to NFL speed. Why not design plays that take advantage of his natural strengths, instead of asking him to act like Goff? D'Andre Swift may have played in Detroit, but his role there was completely different from what he has here. In Detroit, Swift was part of a committee approach with Gibbs. Here in Chicago, we need him to be our bell cow runner, and that requires a completely different approach in terms of play calling and game planning. The reality is that Johnson has had for games to show his offensive vision, and all we've seen are recycled ideas from Detroit that aren't working with our personnel. Where's the innovation? Where's the adaptation? Where's the creativity that supposedly made him so special? I asked you directly, how much longer are we going to give Johnson to find his identity as a coordinator before admitting that maybe Matt Eberflus made a mistake in hiring him? Because if we keep seeing this kind of predictable play calling and poor execution, we're going to waste Caleb Williams' rookie year, which is crucial for his future development. Meanwhile, the Packers have Matt LaFleur coordinating an offense that perfectly maximizes Jordan Love's skills. The Vikings have Kevin O'Connell doing magic with Sam Darnold of all possible quarterbacks. The Lions, even without Johnson, remain explosively offensive under Ben Johnson's replacement. And here we are in Chicago watching recycled trick plays that don't work and wondering if our coordinator really understands how to use the talent Ryan Poles has given him. This is the reality we have to face if we want to be honest about our expectations for the rest of the season. Talistan, Chicago fans. After analyzing these three explosive situations that are defining our season, I need to know exactly what you think about the future of this organization. Do you really believe this narrow victory against the Raiders is a sign of genuine progress? Or do you think, like me, that we're simply postponing difficult conversations about our real limitations? Does Kyler Gordon deserve another chance after this unnecessary social media drama? Or is it time for Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles to take a firmer stance on professionalism and accountability? Because I'll tell you this, in Chicago, we don't tolerate disrespect towards fans who have been loyal through decades of mediocrity. And is Ben Johnson really the offensive coordinator who's going to maximize Caleb Williams' potential? Or are we seeing clear evidence that his success in Detroit was more about the available talent than his genius as a play caller? This question is crucial because Williams' development will determine whether the next 5 years are competitive or more frustrating. But more important than all this, do you feel we're building something special in Chicago? Or are we simply repeating the same patterns of inconsistency that have plagued us since the Lovie Smith era? Because I guarantee you that after this bye week, even more explosive news will come that will shake the foundations of Soldier Field. Ryan Poles still has moves to make before the trade deadline. Matt Eberflus is evaluating changes in his coaching staff that could surprise the entire league. And there are conversations happening at Hollis Hall about the future of veteran players that could completely change the direction of this franchise. You can't miss a second of what's coming for this organization, because these next months will define whether 2024 was the year we finally turned around, or if it was just another season of false hope preparing us for more years of mediocrity. If you agree with me that Kyler Gordon needs to be more professional and respect the fans who support him, like this video right now. If you think Ben Johnson still deserves more time to prove his system, but you're losing patience quickly, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any updates. And if you feel like me that this victory against the Raiders is exactly the kind of ugly but necessary win that could be the turning point of our season, comment below so this entire Bears community knows we're still united through thick and thin. This isn't just a YouTube channel, brothers. This is a family that lives and breathes navy and orange every day of the year. From the freezing cold games in December to the optimistic days of the draft in April, we are the authentic voice of Chicago when no one else understands what it really means to be a fan of this historic team. Subscribe, because together we're going to follow every move, every controversial decision, every moment of brilliance, and every frustrating setback that defines the future of our Chicago Bears. Bear down, Chi-Town. And see you in the next video, where we keep fighting for that championship this city deserves.